have heard about different experiences, what makes Holy Communion really extra special, holy, meaningful? And I hear a lot from you is it has something with community together. We do it together with others. Different traditions celebrate Holy Communion or Eucharist or the Lord's Supper differently. What I appreciate a lot about the Catholic tradition, and I was at St. Vincent Arch Abbey in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, for a retreat in a Benedictine monastery. And there, as in every Catholic church, when the priest comes or when helpers for communion come, you see them genuflecting or kneeling. And they do it in front of the tabernacle where the bread and the cup or the body and the blood of Christ are kept. And that is a very special tradition of our Catholic sisters and brothers to display the body of Christ in a beautiful sunlight kind of monstrance, what they call it. And you see there Pope Francis holding up for a special celebration, just seeing the body of Christ, which in Catholic understanding is the essence of it is body of Christ, and it's visible like bread or like a huge wafer. So a deep reverence for the holiness, for the kneeling, as Kim shared it with us, just kneeling and being receptive and not taking the bread for myself. We often live in a culture of taking, but receiving, being open and receiving communion. Doesn't it make a difference whether I take or whether I'm receptive and open to receive? That is what I appreciate, the reverence, the deeper understanding, the kneeling, what makes it special and holy when we inwardly or outwardly have this attitude of humility and receptiveness for the special, for the extraordinary gift that it is Jesus giving himself to us. Now, there are other traditions, and we will see one here in the Eastern Orthodox Church. Communion is connected with baptism. What you see is a baby baptized, immersed fully underwater. Can you imagine that? Scary. And then they're being raised up out of the water and probably screaming or squealing, happy to be out and alive. And then as the next step, for infants, for babies, they receive communion during their baptism service with a small little tiny spoon, bread and juice they're being fed to become part of the body of Christ. Now, that is for me a wondrous experience. Often I think, do we really have to understand it all before receiving communion? Or is it enough to really wonder in the mystery, in the beauty, in the gift, and be receptive, just like a child, like Jesus invites The children come, do not hold them back. Let them participate in the holy mystery. Now, it does not mean that we do not try to understand, try to learn about the meaning, and trying to experience it on a deeper level of what Holy Communion is really about. We try to do that, but is that a requirement? Do we really need that? We have different traditions in that, again. Now, in the Eastern Orthodox Church, you will also see people receiving communion with a small spoon. It's almost like being spoon-fed with communion, just like children being receptive and receiving communion. There's always been several tensions in communion, and you have heard about it already. The Catholic and often our traditional Protestant tradition of you do not receive communion until you're introduced and understand, until you're confirmed and grasp it. And it went so far that in Geneva, in the capital of Reformed church tradition, the church elders had tokens, communion tokens. And these tokens were given out like pretty much for good behavior. If you did not behave during the week, you didn't get your token. You could not have communion. You were pretty much excluded from the holy. And even now, some traditions excommunicate people who do not believe the way they do and cannot subscribe to the dogma. So you first have to believe it and understanding, subscribe it, and then participate in it. You see, that is one extreme, one way how to understand it. And there is the other way, where everybody is welcome. Whether we get it or whether we don't get it. And in between getting it and not getting it, isn't there a wide field there? Very wide. So, newer traditions have had communion for children, inviting all to come. Isn't it that children are more open for a sense of mystery and wonder, for beauty, being receptive for God's work and for God's gifts? What makes communion special? What makes communion extra special? What makes it holy? For me, personally, one aspect I would never ever want to forget is that communion, Holy Communion, as we partake and participate in it, is connected and is to be connected to the whole of our lives and to the whole of the ministry of this church and the Church Universal. It's the image of the body of Christ. All of us and the whole world participates in the body of Christ, and as long as there are people still hungry, there is something not right about communion, where we are being fed and others being left out. And St. Paul's in the first letter to the Corinthians reminded them there were some who did not have to work. You could think of today people who were better off, were retired, did not have to work. They were there eating and delving into and celebrating big, and the laborers and the slaves who had to work hard, after work, they came to the love feast to communion, and there wasn't much left over. And Paul said, no. Communion is the great equalizer. That's where we all become receptive. And no title, no educational difference, no income difference really matters in the presence of God, whether you're president or whether you're a beggar, becoming receptive in the presence of God. So some of the very first depictions of communion, with Jesus at the center and shining out light, or whether it's sitting around a table and partaking in one of these very, very early Christian frescoes, you see on the table the loaves and the fishes. Loaves and fishes. Loaves and fishes. It's all connected. We are being fed and we feed others. We eat here and are welcome at Christ's table, and we gather around our tables at home. And it does us so well to take a break at our tables and say, thank you for our daily bread. Thank you for feeding our souls. What makes Holy Communion holy and special for you?